Story we're following after a busy legislative session earlier this year in Baton Rouge. Tomorrow, hundreds of new laws will go into effect across Louisiana. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Devin Bartolotta. Charisse is off tonight. Many of those laws affect education, LGBTQ issues, insurance, and government transparency. Lily Cummings looks at some of the biggest changes coming to the Pelican State.
Let's take a look at the new laws that are going into effect in Louisiana. At least 3 laws target the LGBTQ community. The first bans transgender people from using school restrooms that align with their gender identity. The law also extends to prison and domestic violence shelter bathrooms and sleeping quarters. All gender single occupancy restrooms are still allowed. Also banned discussing sexuality and gender at school. And parents will now have to grant permission for students to change their name or pronouns at school. Plus, school employees cannot be punished for refusing to call a student or colleague by their preferred name. Next, some new laws grant more transparency, while others limit it. In 2022, a law went into effect where mugshots could only be released if the person was considered a threat to the public. A new law reverses that decision. Meanwhile, local governments will now be allowed to withhold records related to certain economic development projects. And only Louisiana residents will be able to request public records from the governor's office. Other laws to note: sex offenders could now be sentenced to surgical castration. The victim must be under 13, and this does not apply to offenders under 17. Panhandling on public streets and some sidewalks is now banned. It's already illegal on state highways. Also, the state requirement for lunch breaks for 16 and 17-year-old workers who work 5 or more hours at a time was eliminated. The state also added taping a student's mouth shut to the list of corporal punishment that is prohibited in schools. A few bills aimed to help the state's insurance crisis also go into effect. Those with Louisiana citizens will now be able to exclude tangible personal property and movable property from their coverage, a move that should allow policyholders to reduce their premiums. Plus, the Fortified Roof Program was extended and replenished with state funding. These are just a handful of the nearly 500 new laws that take effect August 1st. Lily Cummings, WWL Louisiana.
Another law taking effect in New Orleans, permitless concealed carry. It's begun across the state, and it did back on July 4th, but a city ordinance blocked the change in the city until tomorrow. Anyone over 18 without a felony will be able to carry a concealed weapon. The rule does not apply to people under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and you cannot take a gun into bars or businesses with "no guns allowed" signs posted. There are a few exceptions. You can read more on our website.